All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Sports 2.0 Network. This is going to be the Sports 2.0 show recounting the situation that happened at Nationals Park this past weekend. I'm Will Reed, your host, joined by Akshay Kumbar and Aaron Yadgaroff. What kind of weekend did you guys have? Mine was pretty eventful. We'll get into that, but Akshay, we'll start with you. How's your weekend?
Yeah, I didn't really do much. Just played some golf on Saturday, and that was pretty much it. But it was overall a fun time. Relaxing weekend. I'm looking forward to get back to this work week.
How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, just hung out with family really. Just my brother. I guess my mom's out at the beach, and so me and my brother hung out. I brought my brother to the airport yesterday. He's going to Montana, so should be fun for him out there in Montana. So yeah,
And Montana is an interesting place to go. I mean, I've
yeah,
never been, but I haven't heard many things from people about it. So we'll,
either
we'll,
have I.
we'll we'll get into how my weekend was. As we said, as the title says, this is a first-hand recount of the situation at Nats Park. I happen to be one of the many thousands of fans that was in attendance at Nationals Park on Saturday night when the shooting did take place. Now, the shooting was outside of the stadium, but that was not known at the time. The shots were heard at around 9:30 p.m. As the teams were leaving for about the middle of the sixth inning. And So I'll just give my whole situation rundown. I was sitting there with my friend Anuj. We were sitting in the little table area right behind our seats where we were getting our food. So we looked out onto the field, and throughout the whole day, there was questions of rain delays. There's supposed to be bad weather in DC, so there's question of rain delays throughout the whole game. But we hadn't seen that rain yet. But once we saw the players leave for the middle of the sixth inning, the field looked empty. It looked like all the players were clearing. And then we saw the players or all the fans behind home plate starting to suddenly rush away. So we were starting to think maybe they got a warning about some rain coming in. They were going to wrap it up early, put the tarp down. And then we hear some yelling behind us going down, and one of the security managers screams out like, "Oh, everybody out! Everybody got to get out!" So everybody's just sent into a frenzy because they're not sure what's happening because it's not a typical rain delay. We're like, "Oh, get under cover," or maybe put on a poncho and wait out the rest of the game. They're very frantic. The security was kind of unaware of what they should do, and I wasn't totally aware of the gunshots. A lot of the players and coaches and fans became aware of it very quickly, but that sound typically sounds to me like a car pop, like the exhaust pop to the engine. My brother's a big car guy, so whenever I hear the popping sound, I usually just write it off for a car. But many other fans heard it as a gunshot and went into more frantic mode prior to me doing that, and prior to my friends getting into frantic mode. But at the time, the stadium thought it was, or the security in the stadium thought that this was an active shooter investigation inside the stadium. So they were going into their protocols for that first. But when they found out that it was a situation outside of the stadium, that's when they advised fans to stay inside the stadium, stay at their seats until further notice. But at certain points, they were allowing fans to leave outside the center field and right field gates where it was safe, which is what me and my friends did. We kind of hustled back to our car because not going to name any names. One of my friends was pretty scared in the moment, so we ran back to the cars and headed on our way home. But after giving that recount, what do you guys think this means for fan and player safety at ballparks? Even though the situation was outside of the ballpark, we did have a little situation mess up where the security did think it was inside, and then they sent the people outside the park to where the shooting was actually happening. Before they could find out that it was inside or outside the park, and kept the fans in. So what do you guys think this means of fan and player safety at ballparks? And we'll start with you, Akshay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's obviously a very awful situation what happened, but also very fortunate that it was outside the stadium rather than inside. There's a lot of, I think there's a lot of bad areas around ballparks and a lot of, and even like across, not even in MLB, but across all four major sports. A lot of sports stadiums are in those kind of bad areas just because of the amount of space that there is there so they can build the stadium. But I personally think that, I think what the national security did was, right in the moment. Obviously it's very hard to determine whether or not they're inside or outside the stadium. But I feel like the players and the fans also should be, a little bit more they should have a little bit more security when they're at ballparks. I think this is a great opportunity for MLB across the league to kind of like amp up security and just make sure that everybody's having a safe time. Keep almost everyone out of danger. It's unfortunate that one of the fans was going home early and got caught in that shooting. Luckily, she's okay though. But I think overall security inside and a little bit outside the stadium as well would definitely go a long way.
Yeah, Aaron, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I don't go. I live in New Jersey, New York, so I go to New Jersey, New York sport events. If I go into New York for a baseball game, Yankee or Mets, there's not much area around the stadiums, at least. So, like, I know in baseball that like if you went to Yankee Stadium, you could literally like be on the block of it basically, and you could hear the gunfire and stuff like that. So I understand a situation like that, and it's like hard for a someone outside of the building or arena, whatever you want to call it, ballparks. It'll be hard for them to control that because of the limited amount of area. I don't know DC's layout that well, but like they have to always make sure they have security everywhere. Like for the Jets games, I know there's tons of security everywhere at MetLife, so it's definitely different in every sport. And we don't know how much money they want to put in security. Obviously, they should put more into it, but in the stadium, it seemed like it was amazing by what they did, how you explained it. So,
yeah, I don't really. Kudos to all the player safety or fan safety and all the security at the stadium. They did what they were told in the moments when they found out that there's potential shooting, and they thought it could have been inside the ballpark. That's when they rushed to get fans into bathrooms, into buildings, or try to get them outside of the stadium as fast as possible. And then once they were made aware over the PA and through their own communication centers that it was outside, that's where they kept the fans in, and they did a pretty good job of that as well. But like you both of you were saying, there's typically a lot of security outside these ballparks as well, and that's the case at Nats Park too. Basically, I think one of the cars that was it was a kind of drive-by shooting between two cars, and one of the cars that was participating in the shooting got caught got centered by three different cop cars, basically as the event happened. So they weren't able to apprehend one of the other cars, but that kind of security outside of the stadium just shows you what's really taking place and that they were ready for a situation like this. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the whole situation with the players and their families and bringing other fans into the dugout, which I think was just kind of a nice camaraderie scene between fans and players and kind of showed the connection that the MLB has between fans and players. So it was reported that Fernando Tatis Jr., Will Myers, and Manny Machado of the Padres were kind of on the front line here. There's a gate between, I think they were on the third base line. There's a gate right there that cuts off the fans from the players in the stadium and the field. But Fernando Tatis Jr., Will Myers, and Manny Machado, all in fear of, I believe, their fans or their families who were in attendance, went over to open up those gates, rush up and get their families while also helping fans into the dugout and into the player area. So what do you guys think of this just from a whole situation? What does this tell you about the players and who they are and what they're able to do just as normal players in the moment? We'll start with player.
Yeah, I mean, so, I think a lot of people tend to forget that, these athletes, as great as they are, they're human beings as well. So, obviously they're obviously going to be even more scared in the moment, especially in an active shooting, even in or outside the ballpark. So, obviously them going up to their families and allowing other fans as well to, seek shelter in the dugout. I think it's a huge deal. I think they should get a lot of respect and credit for what they've done. I'm sure all the other players were, very welcoming to those fans, trying to, give them emotional support as well. So I think what those players and those fans have now is a bond that I think will last a lifetime.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Aaron?
Totally with Akshay. I think it's amazing what the players did. It's not even just grabbing their family, which is 100% what the protocol is to do there. Make sure your family's safe. But getting the fans who are the guys paying their bills firstly, and also just like important to just keep everyone safe. Like you don't want to be at a game where a fan gets shot if you're a player. Like that's not what something you want to remember. So just bringing all these fans and their families down to their benches, dugouts, and even to the clubhouses is amazing for all of these players.
Yeah, I really agree. If I was one of those fans and I got the experience, not like obviously it's not the way you'd want it to happen, but if I got the experience to have one of these players help me out like this in a situation, I would be forever grateful, and it would really open up my eyes. And this situation has as Akshay said, these players are people, like human beings as well. We kind of put them on a pedestal as athletes, seeing them as kind of like demigods for their own sport. But this situation really opened up our eyes to see that those players can be scared too. They're vulnerable, and they're just not all we make them out to be as celebrities. So I wanted to bring them up a quote, I believe, from Davey Martinez after the night. I'm not sure if I can find it immediately, but this situation really did open up his eyes about what DC is. I don't have the direct quote with me, but he said, DC is my new home. He hasn't really been the manager of the Nationals too long, but when a situation like this happens, it really bonds, the fans, the city. I mean, you saw what happened in New York with a situation like 9/11. Obviously, that had nothing to do with the safety of the ballpark at Yankee Stadium or Citi Field for the Mets. But situations like this, where you see violence, where you see shootings, this really brings together lots of crowds and the people who are nearby. So I just think this was not a needed situation in DC, but it's something that either brings up awareness about safety, brings up awareness about gun violence and things like that, and just brings together the community. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you 100%. I think, these situations, you obviously don't want to be in them. They're very awful situations. If they can be prevented, it'd be great. But, obviously things like this happen. And I think the way players and fans go about it, I think is, tremendous. And I think that everybody should get, a lot more respect, especially the heroes that kind of step up in those kind of moments. I think that they should get a lot more respect and recognition. But, I think overall, a city can really rally behind this and, obviously go forward and try to make some change as well. But overall, I think this is these awful situations lead to great moments as well later on.
Yeah, I'm totally with you guys. Sports bring communities back together. So if with this situation, if the Nationals win this game, even if they don't win this game, fans are going to be there, celebrating so much. Everyone's okay and bringing the team back together. So I don't know the Nationals are doing that well this season because I'm not a huge baseball guy, but I think it just be very helpful for bringing this community and the city together.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about was I'll just touch on it a little bit, but the fact that this situation happened around sports brought a lot more attention to it. Obviously, there's shootings that go on in multiple areas of the world every day. This one, 3 people were wounded, which you never want to see. But the night prior, there was a shooting in DC where I believe 6 people were hurt, including one being a 6-year-old girl who sadly passed away. So that situation didn't get as much light as this situation did just because it was around sports. But I think that's a good and bad thing. Obviously, you want the situations where other people are also getting hurt to be brought to light so you can bring up these issues of gun violence. But this situation being around sports did help kind of make another push towards issues that are surrounded by gun violence and just violence in general. I don't know if this was a gang-related situation or if this had anything to do with other criminal activity, but I do think it was helpful that it was around a sports scene just so that it got more attention and the attention it deserved. So I think that'll be all for what we have for the Sports 2.0 network on recounting this situation at Nats Park. Hope everyone is safe. Any final thoughts from Akshay and Aaron?
No, I was shocked to hear that you were at the stadium, and I'm glad that you're all right. But it's just crazy situation there. But I'm glad that you and everybody else in that stadium are doing well now, and hopefully the Nationals can rally behind this and make a great push to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean they got their 8-7 walk-off victory. They did end up losing the resumed game that they resumed at 1:05 p.m. Yesterday afternoon, but they commenced the game about 25 minutes after that, where the Nationals did win a walk-off. So maybe they'll start to rally behind this situation. The Padres might do the same. They both kind of went through the same whole ordeal and same traumatic event together. So I think that kind of bonded those two teams together as well. But any other final thoughts, Aaron?
No, you guys said it all basically. I'm happy that you're okay. I'm happy the teams are okay, and hope the teams can rally together throughout this crazy event.
All right, so that'll do it for us. Don't forget, subscribe to the Sports 2.0 Network. We have a lot of great stuff going on our websites, on the YouTube. We're going to talk about everything from horsing to baseball to football, basketball, anything you want. We got it at the Sports 2.0 Network. So thank you for joining me, Akshay and Aaron, and we will see you guys next time.